Last year, the Oxford Dictionary named one Word of the Year. Virtually every system update downloads a whole new batch of them. And what would text messages be without emojis? Smiley faces, little devils, thumbs up, to name a few. So are emojis evolving into a language all their own? Arlene Lara Verzende, contemporary art and design curator and a fellow in global journalism at the Monk School of Global Affairs, joins us to figure this out. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk about emojis.
Me too.
And the emoji that I was talking about in the opening is the smiley face
Right.
with the tears. And the Oxford Dictionary named it the Word of the Year. Are you surprised by that?
I think we all were surprised by an emoji being named the word of the year. I think it has been used a lot, but to name it a word was a surprise for everybody.
And you're doing a story on emojis.
Right.
Why?
Well, I am a designer and my background is in visual communication, so I'm very interested in what emojis are in our society right now, how it blew up in 2015. It was named like the year of the emojis. And also I've studied in Japan. I did my master's and PhD in Japan, lived there for 6 years. And there is it's where emojis come from. They come from Japan. So how are we in the Western society are using these, appropriating these symbols? And I was just curious.
Do you
about
think that
it.
we're appropriating them?
Well, the way we use emojis and the way Japanese use emojis are a little bit different.
How so?
And have different meanings.
We'll talk more about that in a
We'll
little
talk
bit.
about that, yeah. So sometimes, so let me just say that Japanese culture has this culture of kawaii. Kawaii means like all these cute little, like Hello Kitty, for example, these characters. And so emojis were part of this whole culture. And for us in the West, this was kind of silly icons in our mobiles. But now in 2015, they were like released for the West in 2007 with the first iPhone. And after 8 years, now we have them like almost like universal. We are using our communication.
It's amazing how much like you see emojis everywhere. I even heard that there's a movie coming out. But what is the definition of emoji?
Right. So emoji, like in Japanese, stands for picture, and moji is character. So it's this character that we talk through this picture, this image.
And I always get confused between emoji and emoticon.
Right.
So what came first, and what's the difference between those two?
So emoticons came first. The difference that emoticons are the little faces you do with punctuation, use the columns, semicolons, and then the parentheses and means a smile, and these are emoticons. And when you have the little drawings, the icons, they are emojis.
So emoticons deal more like with emotions, right?
Both.
Yeah.
Both you're expressing emotions, right? You're sending you a smile, you're sending angry faces, but in emojis, let's say your vocabulary is much larger than what you can do with an emoticon.
But you know what I've realized, because I use emojis so much, sometimes when I actually want to like express myself or even to spell something, now I have difficulty doing that.
Do you?
Yes. But how do you think technology has accelerated the use of emojis? And emoticons?
So, well, there's no use of emojis without technology. You see, we use emojis in our smartphones, text messages. They can also be used on the computer, sending like emails. Google, like Gmail, has their own set of emojis. You also have them now on Facebook, and in a way of how you react to posts. Before it was just the thumbs up, so you like the post. And just last year, they released a whole set of emojis saying if you like the post, if you're angry about the post, if you love the post. And so you need the technology to use that. And I know that last year, one newspaper in the United States tried to use emoji on their printed version. So they had like this tragic news, and close to it, there was this sad emojis, and they had like a huge reaction from the public, like bad reaction, of course, because it's like, so what now? Journalists are telling us how we have to feel about news. Like we can understand how to feel if it's a tragedy or not. So we don't need anyone to tell us. So emoji is how you feel and you send to someone. It's not someone telling you how you
And
should
also,
feel.
too, could it be that emojis sometimes can be seen as making light of something? So if you put an emoji, it's kind of like, oh, it's not that serious, or
Well, sometimes, I mean, but it can also serve as clarification of what you mean with that sentence. And I think this is how most of the people use. I personally use it like this. Like, so if you write a sentence and you don't put emoji there, it's not that I use it all the time, but when I use it, there's an intention to that. That is to say, like, well, this is funny, or like, for example, the tear of joy emoji, for sure, it's a joke. Someone is laughing of what you're saying. So I don't know if it's just making light of it. You can also make, just send like angry
it also makes
faces.
sense too, because when we're talking in person, you can see my face, my
Right.
reactions, and then now we're doing a lot of things, a lot of communication through the computer,
Right.
on text. So you might not get the meaning behind it, like the other, I just
Right.
want to go through some of the popular emojis.
Right.
The first one is the smiley face.
Yeah.
And then the next one we have is a smiling thing of poop. And the next one we have is the eggplant.
Right.
And the last one is the Kimoji, which is named after Kim Kardashian. And apparently this is one of the most popular ones. Those emojis that we've talked about, are these universally understood?
The smiley face, of course, right? Like everybody understands it's a happy face. The smiley poop actually is the most popular emoji in Canada. And it means something different here in Japan, for example, where it was created. In Japan, this can be a token of good luck, and they also have this little talismans they sell in temples in Japan. So it's part of their culture. It means something else. Here we use them when it's like, oh shit, oh, just messed up something, and then you send this emoji. So there's a difference there.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, and for the eggplant, that's a funny story that there are so many texts that explain that this eggplant emoji has been used in sexting. So there
And
is
sexting is when you send like a sexual message.
sexual messages, and so it's related to the shape of the eggplant, and they use it as a penis in the messages.
And the last one, the Kimoji. Does everyone know what that is?
So I don't know. Like I didn't know that even like Kim Kardashian would have like an app. This is an app. You have to buy this app, and it has been downloaded. I don't know how, like millions of times, and people pay for it. Emojis are free on your phone, and I think it was a brilliant move on her part to get into this market. I mean, she's the one making money with this, because you see, emojis are not commercialized. So I don't know if people in other parts of the world, out of the United States, would know how to use the Kim Kardashian's emojis.
That's another layer that I learned while doing this research for our interview, is there's a huge business behind emojis. There's even like a group that controls it, like the Unicode.
Unicode.
Yeah.
But Unicode is a non-for-profit.
And they've been around for a long time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like this company that, how to say, they standardized the emojis characters so they can be used in different sets of smartphones, computers. They can be read. So it's a code in your computer that when you type this character, it will appear for you and for me the same character. So it has to have a standard. And they also they select which kind of emojis will come next. So you see, with the last release of the Apple's iPhone operational system, they have a set of emojis that came with it, like 150, I guess. New emojis came, and that involved also like race. So you have now not just yellow faces, you have all the different colors, and also funny ones like unicorns, lions, and also the flip mid finger that you can also, send. And so this Unicode company, they select which ones count or not. And they have a plan of releasing 60 new emojis every year from now on. So now we have about more than 1,000 emojis already.
Wow.
Yes.
We have another image, and this one is a text message conversation using emojis. And the question is, hi, what's happening tonight? What is the emoji response?
So, yes. So usually people want to translate this as a sentence, but everyone can interpret this in a different way. The way I am saying this is like you have a little present over there, and then you have the birthday cake, a balloon, and a bowl. So I would say like there's a birthday party tonight of my daughter, or I'll go to a girl's birthday party or something like this.
Does the order of the emojis at all matter?
Well, there's one researcher from Stanford University who studied emojis and emoticons for his PhD studies. There, he's a linguist, and he says there is a pattern on how we use emojis and the order of it. But he relates this to the order of the emojis in relation to your sentence. Like you write the text, and then after you put emoji. It's not like you put emoji first and then you write. So in terms of like a sequence of emojis, I don't think it changed the meaning of the whatever you want to say if you put the present first and the birthday cake later, or
it's more about the feel.
It's more about the feel,
right?
Yeah.
But could an emoji like visual language develop with a grammatical structure?
Well, so it's two different questions. So they are visual communication structure for sure, because they have meanings in itself. When you look at them, you can understand something. But the grammar structure then is something else. They don't have a grammar structure right now. We don't have any sets of rules of how to use emojis. You don't have like verbs and object and subject. You just have these emotions that you explain, or funny, like this present, but you don't need to combine them in any specific order. They do not form a sentence by themselves. They are meaning in itself, just one character. Or if you combine them together, you can, of course, retain meaning for that, but it doesn't form a sentence.
And who are emojis most popular with?
Well, I'm guessing like the most popular people, like use of emojis would be among young people, because they're texting all the time. But I think this is not, my mom uses it, and I don't think this is related to age anymore. And there's a kind of misunderstanding that young people will translate emojis or communicate in this language better than us or older
people, yeah.
Yes. But I don't think it's true. They just have a set of emojis they will use in a different way than we do. Instead of just using the smiley face, they will use something else.
Do you think they become more acceptable to be used in the workplace?
No, I wouldn't say that. Like, we don't use a lot of emojis for professional communication.
I never used to see like smiley faces or anything. I mean, there was once upon a time when if you used an exclamation point, it was like, you know. But now some of my work emails, I put smiley faces and,
But just between your very close colleagues.
Yeah.
Like if it's for your boss, or if you're sending an application, like I really want this job, you will not use like thumbs up or something to, I don't think people use this for professional communication.
And how have emojis evolved since like the smiley face?
Well, it's a long process, and I think it's being politicized a lot. It began with, complaints about race, and like, I'm not represented here. And this whole discussion of representation matters. So now you have these different colors of faces, and now also have a representation of curly hair for us.
Yay!
So you can send curly hair emojis. And so on. Like now, since I started my research in this, I've been seeing a lot of discussion on, for example, national emojis. Like what? So I know in our mobiles we have these sets of flags. Before they have just a few, now we have a bunch. Like I think almost every country have a flag in the emoji set that we have now. But I'm talking about going further than this. Like Finland is developing their national emojis characters.
Oh yeah, they had the head banging one, right? Because they like heavy metal.
And the sauna, like couple in the sauna, and I was like, that's really.
And the Nokia phone.
The Nokia phone, that's really funny.
Yeah.
So they released just 3 so far, like for the press. So, but this came from the government and from their, diplomatic body that released it. It's like that's funny to say the least. Like how big this is becoming.
It's not just for kids anymore,
it's not
right?
just for kids
But I've
anymore.
also heard that there's been like cases where charges have been brought up on people for what they're texting.
Right.
What do you think of that?
So this was on a case in the United States that they said like emojis matter. So it was the first time that an emoji was presented in court. So it was not, of course, he was not standing alone, not the symbol itself was with the whole message. But the message was like a hatred message or, say like the guy it was a rage message. And there was these emojis it was a gun. And then the police felt that was a threat. And they used this message on court just to say, he used a gun or he used this angry face. And so now there's this discussion, like, is this being taken seriously? So should we be aware of this? Should we, consider this when sending emojis?
I guess if it's words, because words matter, and then I guess images. But then it also brings up the question of why would they have certain images, like in like the gun,
right?
If you are not supposed to use it, why would it be there? It shouldn't even be available, some could argue, right?
Yeah.
Emojis aren't the first so-called like artificial language. Can you tell us about Esperanto?
Yes. So Esperanto was a language created by a Polish doctor. I started reading a little bit about Esperanto and trying to compare Esperanto use or utopia of Esperanto with emojis right now. Why? Because Esperanto was created to be like an universal language, a language very easy to learn, with common words from other languages, like Latin, for example, or English, words that people could recognize already, and very simple grammar structure. So the idea of this doctor was to create a language that people could communicate and break this communication barrier. This was after war, and in the middle of Poland, and there was like lots of different immigrants, and so they couldn't communicate freely. And it's like, well, but how we're going to impose someone else to learn this language? Let's say Polish or German or whatever. That's a very difficult structure, difficult to learn. And then he tried to create this, and so this dream of having one universal language, it's beyond.
You don't think it could be done?
I think it's not even healthy to aim for that.
Why?
Like I've been studying language for some time, not as like my professional life, but because I've been living abroad for some time now. And I've studied like 5 different languages apart from my native language, that's Portuguese. And it's really fascinating how much you learn from other cultures through language. How people think, how they communicate. I can give several examples. Like if you think about the Japanese, for me, this is only my interpretation, my own experience. But in Japanese language, the verb, for example, comes in the end of the sentence. And for me, that explained a lot why they are so patient. They have to wait until you complete your sentence for them to react. because otherwise they will not know what you're talking about. And this is not true for English or for Portuguese, for example. Like we can start a sentence and someone will come and talk on top of us because they know already what we mean. So it's just one nuance. But imagine if we have one only language to everybody.
But wouldn't one
would-
language unite people, and it would have one commonality?
Well, it's yes, yes, yeah, it would, but I don't uh, um, I don't know. I don't believe in this. You know, it also can blend a lot of things, meanings, emotions, and like nuances of culture. And even comparing, for example, when I'm speaking in English and when I'm speaking in my native tongue, that is Portuguese, it's totally different. You know, of course, I can express meaning and stuff, but there are some words in Portuguese that's not translatable, and I don't know how to express them in any other language. It's not about just translating words. It's more than that.
It's also, again, about a feeling, I
Yes.
suppose. I want to read you what reporter Nick Stockton wrote for Wired.com last year. Think about groovy, think about tubular, I haven't said that in a while. Think about what's up, or
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg's Izzo slang, or people yelling, yeah, baby, at each other in fake British accents. Consider emoji in the context of all the other linguistic innovations people owe to digital communication. Humans love language, and we love playing with language. And anytime we find a new method of communicating, we're going to play and experiment with it, at least for a while. The fate of emoji is the same as the fate of English. And then he has the emoticon, the one with
Yeah.
the hands up. Are emojis a fad?
Well, I wouldn't say that. You know, maybe it is. They're talking too much about it in the past couple of years, like 2015, and now with the movie that's coming up in 2017. I think there's too much attention on it right now. But I don't think it's gonna just go away like a slang. Or it's just gonna vanish. I don't think this is gonna happen.
Are emojis hurting language or destroying language or helping or?
I think it's helping. I'm pro emojis. My friends make a lot of fun of me because of this, and especially like here or like in Canada. And when I was living in New York last year, and every message I'm sending, then I send an emoji, and people are like, "Why you like you're a fan of this, right?" I said, "Well, I maybe I got this culture from Japan because this is how we used to talk there, and I learned emoji language there."
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think it's a language per se. It's more like an expression. I would use emojis much more as a punctuation mark.
Like whipped cream on a latte or something.
Right, right.
Moby Dick was translated in emoji recently. How likely are we to see more works of fiction being translated into emoji?
As I said, like I don't think it's a language per se, but when Alice in Wonderland completed its anniversary of 150 years, I guess, they tried to write Alice in Wonderland in emojis. But I mean, it's not for you to pick and read it, and it's more like how can you use these characters to translate this crazy story and go on for that. I don't think people will read books in emoji.
And you speak several languages, right?
Right.
How many languages do you speak?
So with Portuguese, there's 6 languages.
Wow. What do you love about languages, personally?
So that, like I said, like it's really hard to learn someone else's language. Right now, I am in the middle of like studying German because I live in Austria, but it's really tough because it goes beyond words. It's how you use the words. Like I can even compare with Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal. Some words are just used plainly different. Some words like we use in Brazil, they don't use in Portugal. In Portugal, the way they use for us sounds really like outdated, old-fashioned, and so on. So until you get to this point that you're like really fluent, that you know all these nuances, it's fascinating. It's just very interesting.
And of course, since we're talking about emojis and your shirt, what is your favorite emoji?
So yeah, well, I'm dressed in this shirt. I can show you guys. Like,
Twinsies.
the twinsies, and They are also they are my favorite emojis.
Why?
I use them to like, the way I interpret them. They are like girlfriends doing stuff together, or like let's I don't know when you go to the nail salon with your friends. Yes, girlfriend time. And then I sent this one. But actually, if you look for the meaning of this online, it's something else.
What is it on online?
They are like two bunny dancers, like compared to the Playboy bunnies before. So they're more related to this, and I just researched it for the sake of it. I was curious because of this story I'm doing, but the way I use it is completely different.
It's like, I think with everything, it's subjective, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being here, Eileen.
Well, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.